Internet morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending where you're watching. It's morning here. It is evening over in Chicago. Eric, how you going?
Doing great, man. Doing great.
Excellent. This is like part 3 of like a Harry Potter series on the channel. We obviously had you on the other day. We had Jack on yesterday, and now we're back today. And then
hmm
Gonzo is right now driving to his distributor to play Harry Potter. His Harry Potter
Oh, that's
just
cool.
landed in London. And he's out there. He's taken 4 bags, lots of cameras, so we're going to have heaps of footage. And Jack said to him specifically, make sure you have a camera pointing at your face because we
Yes.
want to see your reaction playing this game.
I
So
I want to see his reaction the first time he misses the ball because the return lanes are so fast. And
yeah,
every player I've seen play the game misses the ball the first time because it's that fast.
yeah,
And it's a
yeah,
really cool thing. We've had just a ton of people walking in through the front door because we've got an open front door. If you're in Chicago, you want to come play the new Potter game, we've got one in our lobby. Stop on by.
cool.
And just a ton of friends, ton of great pinball players have been stopping by. There was a huge tournament this last weekend, so a bunch of people have been stopping by and playing the game, and it's a riot to watch. People who are really good at playing games see this thing for the first time, and their visceral reactions when they get to encounter it. So it's cool.
Yeah, man. Look, I've got to say, obviously, it's been a few days now, nearly a week, and we're a day in front in Australia. Um, and the overwhelming positivity is, and the way the game's really brought a community together. I think it's quite a unique launch in that sense. We've touched on it on the channel already. Um, and everyone I've spoken to, a lot of other content creators that have played it have just fallen in love with it. Guys that are not even into the theme have ordered one, and it's been a really interesting, and even just to speak to multiple different distributors that the last 6 months have been a ghost town in sales.
Yeah.
Uh, Things are still moving. Don't get me wrong, but like not like this. This has been like record setting from what I'm hearing, um, and that's kudos to I think the RP, obviously the passion behind the project, um, the passion behind and the product you guys build, right? Because it's an experience. We touched on that with Jack. You guys create a real cinematic experience in your games with the big screen
hmm
and the light show and everything like that. So, mate, you got to be happy. I hope you
Very
get paid
happy.
for the game.
Very happy. I am out there on the line. Have been there for, I think I'm on week seven, eight, maybe. Starting to blend together, but we've got lots
So
of.
I want to touch on that, right? Because I was
hmm
speaking to Ralph the other day, Retro Ralph, who did
hmm
your people that don't know did the featurette. Um, he said that one of the things when he was at the factory, because you guys obviously built a set there, which was I hope you guys take that to shows because that was a pretty impressive
It's a
piece of kit.
monster. It's a
Yeah,
monster set. So
it's
it's.
and then you hope to get a home and put it in your man cave. Um,
Mhm.
he had said one of the things that he could see was like a game changer in his opinion was your level and also I forget your and excuse me for forgetting this the gentleman in charge of your mechanics and stuff uh,
Dan
Dan.
Laychuk is
He
my
said
lead
you guys
mechanical
being
engineer.
on that production line was like you were in the zone. You're like you couldn't get you off there. You guys were checking every game meticulously. One wasn't allowed to move to the next stage without, and like you were invested. And I think
Yes.
that just shows, the level of, and we saw that even like they were at the launch of Kong, and same thing. Keith had to get away because he wanted to go look at the production. Right? It's like I want to
hmm
get down there, and I think as a
Right.
designer uh, especially when a game is this important, it's so important. And I can't imagine how much it's consuming you. Even like as a perfectionist myself, I always go, wait, I need to check that again.
hmm
And,
hmm
like 20 minutes later, you've checked the same thing over and over again. So it must be emotionally draining and physically draining as well.
Yeah, it's been a couple of 12-hour days here back to back. My kids are up with grandma right now up in Wisconsin. My wife's out on vacation, so I don't have any compelling reason to come home early or to leave late. So I've been there for 12-hour days. And it's sure, you're tired at the end of the day, but you feel like you did the right thing. I'm teaching the assembly line all of the little, well, this is why it needs to be like this and not like that, or this part came in slightly askew. Can we just give it a little tweak and it should feel like this when you put the ball around that, or sound like this when you put the, like, I noticed that diverter, there was a little bit of a chatter there because, oh, this part wasn't screwed down right. And like, I have been with this game for so long now, I can actually hear when the game isn't working right, and I can feel when the game isn't working right, and just trying to impart as much of that knowledge as possible onto the assembly line. So we're going through the stages now where they've been building, they're well past 100 games at this point. And I'm just standing back now and making sure that they're not missing anything. And the documentation is there for them to be consistent. If someone calls off, I don't want to lose tribal knowledge because, well, only this guy knew how to put that mech together. No, it's all well done, well documented, and a shared knowledge pool so that everyone can step in if someone's gone for a day, or if we get a new employee, they can get up to speed right away. It's an important thing to transfer the knowledge into how to build this game. So that's where I've been living for weeks now.
It's going to be interesting because, like, I said to Jack yesterday, I said, you guys are going to build a bucket load of these, like thousands, maybe 10,000, right? Mm-hmm. And, it's going to be like GNR 2.0. That's a lot of games to get out, number one. What's that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I said,
there you go, GNR. There's a lot of games to get out. There's a lot of games to check, a lot of games to obviously keep an eye on, maintain. So it's a big feat. And, I think when you're not pumping out 4 games a year or 2 games a year, you can do it, right? Like you guys, like Jack said, we don't care when like he said, Steve Ritchie's next. And if it means his game's 3 years away, then so be it. Like, it is what it is. And
right.
Probably will be. Like, who knows?
Right.
But do you, like, Jack touched on this and said what you guys do is hard work, right? Like it is hard work from the inception to completion is hard work. Do you consider this a job?
There are many days where it doesn't feel like a job, right? Where I get to go in and I get to just make stuff, work with my hands to fabricate pinball parts in my machine shop.
Yeah.
Hang out with Joe, Joe Katz, lead programmer. Hang out with Joe, just shooting the game, watching him play. He watches me play, and we've just got a whiteboard that's 3 meters long by 2 meters tall, and we're just writing notes and writing ideas and concepts. Like, oh, I saw you do this. It'd be really cool if the lights did that, or this sound effect was used, or there's a scene in the movie where this could have been, that would tie into this mode, and we're just jotting stuff down. And Joe and I are both good players, so we can go head to head and play. Now, Joe will probably beat me more often than not because he was in the tournament scene for quite a while, but I could still hold my own against Joe. But it's fun to be able to play and talk trash and make the game more interesting. And when you're making a game with a buddy, with a friend, you can get past like this, I don't know, reserve that you would have with other fellow coworkers. Joe and I have been now working together for 10 years. And we can just like, oh, it'd be cool if we did this. Oh, it'd be cool with it. Like, no idea is off the table, and we can do really fun stuff together.
That would be an entertaining stream to watch, is you two.
Oh, yeah. We'll have to do that. We'll have to get that up there.
That'd be an interesting one. So I guess, actually, just quickly, can we touch on, obviously, you just said, you're a pretty good pinball player. For those that don't know, because we do get a lot of new people that follow the channel, and obviously there's going to be a lot of new people bought into this hobby because of Harry Potter. And I did say to Jack, that's already something that's overwhelming, right? Because you guys not only have to build a game that appeases the pinball community, which can be pretty pretty hard to please sometimes.
Uh-huh.
But you also have to appease, you got to make the Harry Potter fans that have never played pinball like this game. And that balance of, we touched on this obviously, but that balance. But do you, like, at what point did it all start for you when it came to, if we go back in time, right? The first time you played pinball, like what hooked you on? What got you into pinball?
I remember it very explicitly. So I grew up in the arcade game industry. My father started a route operation when I was like 3 years old. So I was always with my parents. It was a small family-run business. Never had a babysitter. There were only 5 of us that worked in the business, and there were no idle hands, right? 5-year-old me wasn't sitting there playing a Game Boy. It's like, no, go grab this sack and go take all the quarters out of those pinball machines. Figure out how to do it. Or that thing doesn't work. It's got an error on it. Figure out what's wrong. Fix it. So I've been around games my whole life. But the game that got me hooked on pinball was Lord of the Rings. And in fact, sitting folded next to my godfather over there is the very first pinball machine I bought, which is my Lord of the Rings. So I was part of my father's business, our family business. I was 16 when Lord of the Rings came out. We ordered 5 of them from Stern for our route, and Pops asked me to go into the warehouse and set them all up and fine-tune them and make sure they're all working. It was a Wednesday night. It was a school night. So I go out there, after dinner or whatever, and I'm setting up the games. And yeah, I'm a 16-year-old kid, but I can pick up a game with one hand, in the back of it, and bolt the legs on, get the game set up, go through them, fine-tune them, and then play some test games, right? And I figure out, oh, this is more than just whack the ball around. There's a story here. I figured out how to collect the fellowship members, how to start the Two Towers multi-ball, how to go up to the Paths of the Dead and collect all the souls. And then I destroyed the ring, and I'm like, holy shit, there's something to this. This has got its teeth in me, and it's not letting go. So I just keep playing, and I keep playing. And my old man comes out, and it's 2:30 in the morning, and I've got to be up for school in 3 hours. And he's like, "What are you doing? You have school in the morning. You get to bed." But I just got so hooked in this rule set and the audio call outs and the layout that George made.
It's phenomenal.
I was fortunate enough to be able to introduce the guy into the Pinball Hall of Fame that made that rule set. And that's Keith Johnson, because he was my lead program on the first 3 games I made. So, I had that awkward moment when I started at Jersey Jack Pinball, and I bring in my Lord of the Rings backlash. I'm like, "Hello, fellow employee. You want to sign this for me?" And yeah, he did. So Lord of the Rings is a game that got me hooked, and a lot of it was to do with Keith's rule set. And again, George made a great layout, but it was Keith's rules that really got me hooked in pinball.
Well, there you go. Well,
yeah.
See, I didn't even know that story, so I learned something new every day. Look, I can totally relate. And Gonzo, he loves Lord of the Rings. Is his favorite game. It's my favorite game. Totally. I mean, it's they remaster that thing like they did Metallica. They're going to be making 8,000 of them as well, probably.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to this.
Yeah.
So a friend of the channel who's very invested in doing this type of stuff sent me this and said, I said, "Can I use this?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." And there's a lot going on. Before we get into this, though, and I want to know. Obviously, you told the story in our other video that when you had that meeting, you quickly jotted down all your ideas, and when they said, "What have you got?" you went, "Boom! Here, I've already done everything." Right?
Mm-hmm.
And like from when you did the first Playfield, right? The first Whitewood, was it did you go straight to that and go, I know exactly what I'm doing? Did it change much? Has it evolved much from this at all?
This is very similar. So I have the very first whitewood. This is something that I do and something that several game designers do. I keep the first whitewood that I ever made. I strip the parts off, but I hang it up on the wall. And then right above it, I put a printed playfield just so that I can see the evolution of the game. Maybe I can snap a picture of that in my office tomorrow. But I've got, my first Pirates whitewood, and then my first Pirates prototype playfield, and then my GNR and my GNR prototype and Godfather prototype. They're all on my wall. So there's always things that change and things that get massaged and things that tweak and adjust slightly. But from a 30,000 foot view, like, it's really that original layout with the staircase and the upper play field and the villain and the main ramp and the right orbit, Vuck, spinner on the right side. Like, all of that is still there. And then, I'll tweak target sizes, right? Like, we had like 3 narrow targets where Hermione was, and they were in a line, kind of like the Ron targets. But then playing that and feeling the way that the rebound shots fed, in which direction they fed, it's like, it'd probably be better if it was 1 wide target, 1 narrow target, were set at a 40-degree angle or so to just aid in the way the game flows and the way the game feels. So, rough layout, absolutely, it was this. And there's just different parts that change around. Like, I had a mech in the right out lane between the 2 R's for Harry, right, where Voldemort is, where Harry and Voldemort are like battling each other.
Yep.
And I had this mech, and it was fun in concept, but it just wasn't fun in practice. So the mech varied the size of the outlane, and we had it working, and we could narrow down the R to make the game drain more, and we could narrow down Voldemort's side to make the game return the ball more. But when it came down to it, the amount of variation was so minor, right, before it would close and create a ball trap, that, or, if it got smaller than 1 inch and a 16th, stupid imperial measurements, but if it got smaller than 1 inch and a 16th, it would create a ball trap. So when it came down to it, it's like the amount of variance there was so minor, it just wasn't fun. So wound up taking that out, putting in the Protego mech instead, which is a lot more like better theme integrated, more interesting, and that kind of stuff happens with every single game you've ever played the final product of. There are so many parts that are left on the cutting room floor, so many concepts that have been iterated and iterated and iterated that the end user doesn't see, but it's something that every game designer, carries around in the back of their head. Like, there was a part, it wasn't fun, so we had to change it, or for some other reason we had to change stuff, and it happens with every game.
Well, and that's why I asked, because, like, the Pirates of the Caribbean, the concept had the spinning discs, and then there was stuff in GNR that didn't make it in the game, and sometimes people go, "Oh, what if? Maybe." It's a very different game, right? And sometimes it's for the best, and sometimes I know some designers have got some remorse where they go, "Oh, well, man, I wish we didn't take that out." But look, it is what it is. The interesting part about this was, like, you look at the shot count. So 11 shots from the left flipper, possibly 12, because I'm about to ask you about being able to backhand the ramp, and 10, and then 8, and then 5. And that's just the shots, not the ball parts, right? So, again, there's 48 ball parts on this, 49. I remember, 48. Is that official if we counted?
I counted with Keith in my office, and we talked through it, but I don't count stand-up targets as shot paths. I count like ball paths that go and end up somewhere, not that end at a stand-up target. So we counted 48 ball paths that include the diverters and the different way that the ball can stop and continue.
Yeah. And actually, I'll touch on this quickly before I forget. So with this staircase that spins, that obviously allows to do those ball paths, and that alone has like 13 in itself. Is the way that turns based on obviously being triggered by sensors and whatnot, but code. Is there an element of that that is also random as well, or is it purely code based and trigger based?
So there's two different priority levels for the staircase. If there is a mode or an objective that it would benefit you if the staircase always fed to your upper right flipper for whatever reason. Maybe you're playing Luna Loves Loops, which is an upper loop mode that gets repeated on the upper loop there. Then we will purposefully rotate the staircase so it feeds that upper flipper whenever you shoot probably the easiest shot in the game, which is the main ramp right up the middle. If you don't have a mode of some kind running, or a movie objective running where it wants to set the staircase in a specific orientation, then anytime you shoot the staircase, it'll rotate 90 degrees clockwise if you shoot the main ramp, or it'll rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise, or anti-clockwise as you folks say it, if you shoot the main staircase itself. So two priority lists. If you have a mode that myself and the programmers feel is important to feed X flipper, then we will make the main ramp feed that flipper from the staircase. If it's not currently a priority, then shots on ramp or shots on staircase will rotate 90 degrees clockwise or anti-clockwise.
That's Jack touched on that last night, where he said that there's an element of the game where, like, if you don't get up to Quidditch, the staircase takes you to Quidditch, which is, I think, is a really interesting way of, because as much as that ramp, which is this ramp here, which takes you up the top, is quite accessible and quite wide. You know, someone who's never played pinball because they just love Harry Potter comes up and they're dying to get up there and drains their 3 balls and their $2 or whatever it costs.
Right.
And they never get to experience it. Can be a little bit demoralizing, right?
Right. So the way that works, for example, if on ball 1 you have not scored a point on the Quidditch pitch, then any shot you shoot to the right orbit or to Diagon Alley, again, shot right up the middle. And when you look at like game statistics and game audits, the average casual player, right, not someone who understands pinball the way you and I do, but the average casual player stays within about a 30-degree pitch right up the middle. That's where casual players shoot because they flail, right? They just flap at the ball, and that's where casual shots will go. So we made it so that shots on Diagon Alley, shots on the right orbit, and shots on the inner loop, if you happen to flail into that, if by your second ball you've not gotten to the Quidditch pitch, then we will grab the ball on that magnet, we will feed it to the top of the staircase, and the top of the staircase will feed to the Quidditch pitch. So you'll be able to get a shot on it by your ball 2. And if you still haven't done it by ball 3, it'll feed it up there again.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think it's a great concept. And I think obviously, you know, appeasing, and we did touch on this the other day as well, the fact that, like, you know, if you don't finish certain things, the game will lower the difficulty and et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a great concept. From that left flipper, can we backhand this ramp?
That ramp is backhandable. It's easier on a rolling backhand, but you are able to do it on a standing backhand.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So let's touch on, I mean, where do we start? There's just so much going on. One of my favorite games that I play whenever I can find one is Fathom, and, you know, having the jump across, I'm assuming these lanes where I think you can see my mouse on both sides. I know this has the Protego, but this is going to upset a lot of people. It's going to be a challenging little drain, but in a good way, like not a bad.
Now there is a ball save on that side as well. So you can qualify Fox, the Phoenix, right? A Phoenix can be reborn from its ashes. So if you've qualified Fox, in the second movie or in the second book, there's a process called Burning Day, where Fox molts and turns into ashes and then is reborn from the ashes. So if you've shot the right orbit 3 times, then Fox is lit. And if you drain down the A lane there, and I call it the A lane because Harry is the bottom lanes and A is the second letter there. If you drain down the A lane with Fox qualified, it will start a 30-second mode where you have to make 3 different shots. If you make 3 different shots, your ball is reborn and you get to continue play.
Cool. That's cool. Cool concept. So we've got, obviously we'll start from left to right. We've got the 3 stand-up targets here, which can obviously be hit from this flipper. I'm assuming with a soft touch, we'd be able to probably hit it off the left flipper as well, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, again, a rolling backhand, I've hit the Ron target anytime you want, right? Oftentimes you can see the snitch flying around on anywhere, so it's always useful to have the control to be able to backhand those stand-up targets. Yeah, totally.
And then we know this one takes us up the top. And I was trying to find a video that showed more what was happening kind of around this area here. Can you talk me through this?
Sure.
So this is I'm assuming the ball can go, that goes around to the back.
It does. And there is a diverter underneath that upper playfield.
Yep.
All right. That will feed the ball quickly back down the left return lane.
Yep.
So it'll open up. You can make that inner loop shot where the allies for Dumbledore's army are. There's a diverter that can pop open, and the ball will kind of do a quick U-turn and come back screaming down the H lane to feed that left flipper again.
There you go. Okay, cool. That's what I was going to ask about the diverter being under there.
Yeah, so the diverter buried underneath that upper playfield. The shot that I don't think is getting a lot of love yet, because people haven't really seen it, is the lower shot on that upper right flipper, which is called the library shot. So I think it's the 3rd blue line. Yeah, so the 3rd blue line from the bottom. Yeah, so that shot on its own goes in and does a quick S turn and comes back down the H lane.
Right.
On its own. So right underneath that.
It goes under the ramp.
It does. It goes under the ramp. It turns around quick and comes back down the H lane.
Right. Okay.
That shot in game adds 1x to your bonus multiplier to a max of 10, and bonus can absolutely be a monster on this game. If you've hit that shot and you can reliably hit that shot, it will blow up your score.
Next to that one is this one here.
Right. So that is called the Allies stand-up target. So if you hit that stand-up target, it qualifies either the upper loop or the right orbit to add an ally to your current game. Ally rules are as follows. If you collect 2 allies from one group, Dumbledore's army on the left, or the Order of the Phoenix on the right, you get to start one of those modes. There are 2 modes in each group of allies. So I think the first mode is started after 2 allies collected from a group, and the second mode is started after 5 allies collected from a group. If you collect a total of 10 allies total, you collect the Locket Horcrux, which is one of the 7 qualifiers for the final wizard mode.
Yep. Okay. And actually, do you want to touch on, before we move on, since you said, do you want to touch on what those are? Because a lot of people have heard this word, and
Horcrux.
The Horcrux, and not knowing what they are, and obviously that they're all needed to obviously as part of the story. Do you want to just touch on that quickly? You're the best person to tell the story.
Sure. So in the Harry Potter lore, Lord Voldemort, he's the big bad guy that Harry faces. He delved into some really nasty dark magic, which is called a Horcrux. A Horcrux is created when you murder someone. A part of your soul gets torn away and locked into a physical object. What that means is, as long as that object is whole and hale, you cannot die a final death. If you have a Horcrux hidden somewhere, you can come back. But Lord Voldemort, he doesn't take any chances. He actually created 7 Horcruxes. And he used some important items in the wizarding world. And the story through the final couple movies of Potter, as you learn about them, is that Voldemort created these 7 Horcruxes, and then Harry and his allies work to destroy these Horcruxes. So as the pinball player, your objective for the final wizard mode is to collect these 7 Horcruxes and then play the final wizard mode called The Boy Who Lived, which is a moniker that's applied to Harry Potter. He's the only person in history who's ever survived the Avada Kedavra curse, which is the killing curse. So if you can collect these 7 Horcruxes, you get to face Voldemort in the final showdown, which is the climax of the last movie. And throughout that, you are destroying these Horcruxes. You're seeing the Horcruxes get destroyed as they are destroyed in the films. But they are set to a fairly difficult level, meaning, I said you collect 10 allies to get 1 of the Horcruxes, the locket. Collecting the diadem of Ravenclaw means you've collected a super jackpot in the Quidditch World Cup multi-ball, which is not an easy multi-ball to get to. And then collecting the super jackpot in it is also not a trivial matter. And that's kind of the level of difficulty that we aimed for each of the Horcruxes. Make sure that you experience 7 major components of the game, and then do a fairly difficult, not impossible, but a fairly difficult achievement in each one of those objectives in order to gather the Horcruxes and start that final wizard mode.
There you go. All right. So for those that don't know, and maybe you should do a quick 10-minute Harry Potter, what Harry Potter is video for Jersey Jack social media, because there's a lot. I'm surprised how many people, like I'm 41, and a lot of my pinball friends are probably up to, I think they average between 40 to 60. And I'm surprised how many haven't actually ever seen Harry Potter. But they're invested, and I think they'd be more invested. Trying to get these people to sit down to watch 8 films, it's a lot lot of time. It's like if you did a marathon, 24 hours or something.
It's like 24 hours worth of movies,
Yeah. So a 10-minute Jersey Jack Harry Potter nerd out would be a cool little video to do. All right, so we got to this stand-up target, that drop target, that you obviously hit. It drops. Does it? You have to hit it a certain amount of times or just once?
So the rule on that, the first time you shoot at it, you hit it once. It qualifies Death Eater fights. You shoot the ball in there, and the drop target comes up. And that's a feature that's been used on a couple games. The drop target holds the ball behind it. In this case, it kicks off a Death Eater fight mode. And you see one of 6 Death Eaters, and they're characters from the films. They're bad guys. And you're battling with them and with their accomplices. So the Death Eaters wear these like silver masks. So that's what that character is emulating. And we did that so that it could represent any of these Death Eaters. They all wear the same masks, same style of masks. So we put that sculpture in there. You shoot the ball underneath, and the ball is held behind the drop target. We show an intro scene. And then through a fun use of the way that a drop target mechanism actually functions, we pop the drop target down, which rolls the ball backwards into a kickback that fires the ball back at you like F-14, like the Whiplash shot on Iron Man. A couple different games have done this. It barrels at you as they're whipping a hex at you or a curse at you. And then you're battling the Death Eater. You got
And
to hit
you
him.
touched last time, sorry, the way it shoots at you, does that change strength-wise?
Yes, and so
Yep.
we purposefully randomize it because we want to mess with your brain, because that's more fun than having it be predictable every time.
Yep.
So yeah, there's a couple different software pulses that coil kicks at, and that just makes it less predictable. So then you're in a Death Eater fight. You got to hit them a couple more times before you defeat them, and then if you defeat 2 Death Eaters, you get to qualify Death Eater multi-ball, where there's a bunch of Death Eaters on screen and you're trying to take them all out and survive.
There you go. All right, cool. I'm looking forward to playing that. That's cool. I'm a sucker for F14, for instance, one of my favorites, where the ball just boom smashes back at you. So obviously we've got this ramp now. This ramp shot can be hit from all 3 flippers. It looks like.
I wouldn't say it's achievable from the upper right flipper, right? That was not an intended geometry. You're not going to get a successful shot from that upper right flipper. Just the ball path feeding to you isn't going to feed it well. So the lower 2 flippers primarily on that main shot.
Cool. Okay, and that takes us up the top, up the ramp. And obviously
it does a little S curve.
Yeah. Little S curve.
Yep.
And then that enters into the here, right?
Right, into the back of the staircase.
Yep.
And so that will lead 4 different places.
Yep.
If the staircase has what I call the dead end, then it'll stop. It'll hit that, and it'll drop straight down and fall into the pop bumper area.
Yep.
All right. If
it's
part
of the staircase that's got the rubber.
There's like a black rubber on the back of it. So it'll run into that. It'll drop straight down. It'll fall into. So there's a pop bumper with the Whomping Willow. There's another pop bumper, and there's a slingshot. So it's an area that has a ton of action back there. So that's one
path. 2 pop bumpers?
There are 2 pop bumpers and a slingshot.
Yep.
So that's one path from the staircase. If it's rotated 90 degrees clockwise, then the ball will go in the back of the staircase and exit the left out of that left wire form underneath the Quidditch player. If it then rotates 90 degrees more, it'll enter second layer and exit to the right, which will do a quick loop back and then drop onto the playfield and feed that blue flipper, the upper right flipper.
Yep.
And then finally, if the staircase is what I would call facing the rear, then the ball will enter that and it'll shoot out the front of the staircase down to your lower flippers. It's a bit random which flipper it's going to face, and sometimes it can drain straight down the middle from that shot. But there's a 2-second ball saver, so we throw it back at you if it does.
So that's because as the staircase is moving, the ball comes out, so it kind of is coming out whenever. Yep, cool. All right, and then obviously, so that ramp takes you up there, and then we've got a stand-up target just there.
Yep, so that's Hagrid.
Yep.
Is that stand-up target, and he's right next to Diagon Alley, because Hagrid is the first person who introduces Harry to Diagon Alley. Diagon is a really fun rule in the game. There are 4 different shops that you can enter in single ball play. The top one, and so the way it works is you spell out the word Diagon, which is 6 letters. I think we spot you 4 letters at game start, and then you just got to spell 2 letters. And then every time you hit the stand-up target, it'll change which shop is currently lit. Or you can use the action button, if you're an advanced player, to change which shop is currently lit. So the 4 rules, the 4 shops that are available. The top one is the joke shop. The Weasley's Wizarding Wheezies is the name of the shop. It first appears in the 6th film. Might have been. Yeah, it's the 6th film. It's run by the Weasley brothers, and long story short, there is if you shoot into there, you get what's called a bombtastic bomb, which in pinball terms is a smart bomb. You get one of those, you hit the action button, it completes the current mode shots that you would need in order to complete a mode. It's a great thing to have because your modes continuously run, your movie modes continuously run, and if you can't make a shot or if you're running out of time, you really want to complete that mode, you hit that action button and you complete your mode. Every consecutive mode shot you make adds a multiplier to your final score for your modes. So completing them consecutively is really a great way to score huge points in the game. So that's kind of like one of those clutch, oh, I'm not going to make it, hit the button, and keep it going.
Can you collect multiple bombs?
You can. So there's a couple ways of adding extra bombs. Completing Ron, I think after several iterations will give you more bombs. I think there's a skill shot on the Ron targets that will add an extra bomb for you. So they're a very lucrative resource.
Once you've gone in the shop, you can't go back into the shop again
you
and get another
can
bomb?
go back into the shop, yes. You can revisit shops multiple times.
Yep. And that's
so the next,
that's the dude
that's
on
the
the
top one, yeah, and he's got like a top hat, and that's a scene from the film.
So that's obviously lit up, like you said,
Yep.
depending on where you hit the stand-up target, it will light up, randomize which shop it is. Cool.
Yep. The next shop down is the Owl, which is called Elop's Owlry. What that is it is a 25 million point hurry up.
Yep.
So you shoot the ball up diagonal. The ball is grabbed on the magnet, dropped into the vertical up kicker, and it will feed to the staircase. One shot on the game will be lit up for 25 million points, and the staircase will rotate to feed whichever flipper is the easiest shot to make from. All right. So if the right orbit is lit up for 25 million, that staircase is going to rotate, stop, and when the ball drops on, it's going to feed your lower left flipper. If that hurry up is on the upper playfield, the staircase is going to rotate, stop, feed the upper playfield. If it's on the inner loop, staircase will rotate, stop, feed the upper flipper so that you can make that shot. Your first shot from that flipper, you're going to want to make because it's worth 25 million. It's a monster shot.
Awesome.
The next shop is Flourish and Blot. So it's slightly to the left.
This one.
That green insert. Yeah, so it's called Flourish and Blots.
Yep.
Flourish and Blots is the bookshop where the students buy all of their books.
Mm-hmm.
That is, and I hate to use this dirty word, but that is the video mode in the game. And video mode, again, they're generally not something that pinball fans get excited about. And myself and Joe are pinball fans. We know that video mode, you're playing pinball, you don't want to play a video game, right? But this video mode is very quick. And it's basically a form of Simon Says. We show you a spell on screen, and we give you a 3-button input. And we'll say, like, Alohomora, left flipper, right flipper, action button. And then it goes to the next screen, and you have to repeat the lesson you were just taught. Left flipper, right flipper, action button. Boom, you've completed your spell. You get a award for that. You earn a Horcrux, which is first presented in the second movie in Flourish and Blots. So it's one of those like hidden Harry Potter things that the fans will understand as why they got it there. But if you hate video modes and you blow it off, well, whatever. You still get 10,000 points. You're not going to earn your Horcrux, and you're not going to earn your multiplier for a multi-ball. But we're not going to wrap you up in some mode that you don't want to play. It is extremely quick. It's 3-button presses, and you're done. Both Joe and I like that concept. It's not something you're trapped in for 30 seconds or a minute. You get right back to the pinball action if you want to. And if you just blow it off, you're not going to be rewarded, but you'll get your ball back right away. And then the final shop that's available initially is Ollivander's Wand Shop. So this is one of those iconic moments in the film where the first movie Harry receives his wand, and he receives his wand from a wand maker who's known, his last name is Ollivander. The wand chooses the wizard. So you see this scene where Harry's picking these different wands, and none of them are working until he finally gets the right one. The reason to go to this shop is that in pinball rules, this adds scoring opportunities and score modifiers to the wand-based multi-ball, which is called the Golden Trio, right? So that 3-ball lock over on the right-hand side is the physical 3-ball lock for the Golden Trio. And we have the 3 wands of the kids from the film. So Harry, Ron, and Hermione. That's Those are their wands in 1-to-1 movie scale replica. Very artistically sculpted to be exactly accurate to the films. It was a really fun project to work all the way through. But if you go to Ollivander's, we light up 5 shots on the playfield, and every one of those shots that you make adds a lucrative multi-ball bonus or increase or modifier before you start Golden Trio. Things like qualify double triple jackpots, qualify multi-ball restart, qualify double scoring for multi-ball, and a couple more. But when you visit Ollivander's, it lights up those 5 shots for 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to make those. And then the next time you start Golden Trio, you'll have all of these stacked bonuses going in to Golden Trio. So all 4 of those shops have really interesting rules in them. But all of those require single ball play. So then Joe and I were thinking, what do you do with Diagon Alley during multi-ball play? What could we use that for? So any shot on Diagon Alley during multi-ball is going to dump points into a bucket. And that can become, again, that's a shot right up the middle where most casuals are living all of their best life, right there up the middle. So every shot you make on Diagon during a multi-ball will dump score into a bucket that the next time you qualify Diagon Alley during single ball play, you've unlocked a 5th shop. And that is Borgin and Burke's, which lives in Nocturne Alley, which is where all of the evil wizards do all of their shopping. But you can cash out all of those shots on Diagon during multi-ball if you visit Nocturne Alley and get a big old payout.
I think that whole Diagon Alley thing is great because it adds just elements of like layering to the game, right? And it's
Absolutely.
using the one shot.
Yes.
So okay, so that's that one. Now we move to the next one, which is the fixed kind of opening at the bottom of the staircase, right?
Yep.
So that takes us to the back.
Yep.
And then it also takes us where?
3 other shots. So something I'd like to point out that we tried to impress into the players is there is what we call a D-pad or a directional pad, right? Like you'd have on a video game controller in front of the staircase shot and in front of the Great Hall shot. So you can see yellow, blue, green, and red arrows in front of the staircase shot. And they're set up like a D-pad, right? So yellow is pointing up, the red is pointing left, blue is pointing right, green is pointing down. So when the red arrow is flashing in front of the staircase, that means the ball, when shot at the staircase, will feed out of the left of the staircase and feed the red flipper at the bottom of the playfield.
Right.
When the insert is flashing blue and facing to the right, the ball will exit to the right of the staircase when you make that shot and feed the blue flipper. When it's flashing green, it'll feed the green flipper. When it's flashing yellow, well, it'll feed the pop pumpers in the back. So that's how it works.
I didn't even pick that up. So good. Thank you for that, because I think a lot of people will spin out about that.
Right, and a lot of people, they'll see it when they play the game. And again, that's one of those like color coordinated subtleties, playing into the subconscious feed to the players. They're going to start to pick up on things. There's red flipper down there with a red rubber on it, and a red arrow that points to the left. And anytime that red arrow is flashing, it's going to feed your left flipper. And then same for the blue flipper and same for the green flipper. So.
All right, that's cool. And again, the D-pad analogy is awesome. All right, so then to the right here.
Right. So to the right is the right orbit. which is themed after the Order of the Phoenix, which is a group of allies that Harry has, starting in the 5th film. That shot can go all the way around the game and come down the leftmost return lane, the H lane, and that thing is wicked fast and wicked comboable, right? To be able to shoom, zoom, zoom. You know, I've made 3 in a row on that, and I swear the ball's moving 100 miles an hour. It's just incredible. But we can choose if we want, and I say we as in me and the programming team, can stop the ball if we want to and feed it to the top of the staircase from that shot as well. So there are like a ball lock, for example, is a good instance where we would stop the ball on that shot when one of the balls for Golden Trio multi-ball. That's where you could lock a ball. We'd stop it, feed it to the top of the vertical up kicker, and instead of feeding it to the staircase, we would feed it to the wand lockup mechanism.
And this area, I was trying to find a video that where is it? I'll try and find it while you're talking about it. These two lights here and this shot here. Talk us through that there.
Sure. So there's an area called the potions area where it is not a directly shootable shot, but it is a highly repeatable ricochet shot. So you're not technically aiming for the cauldron when you fall in underneath it. But if you shoot for example, the R target from your lower right flipper for Ron, you can drop it into that cauldron. If you miss a ramp shot for the staircase, it can fall into that cauldron. If you hit the allies target from your upper right flipper, it'll fall into the cauldron. So I left this opening on the right-hand side to drop a ball into the subway and created a rule around it for the dungeons, which is where the potion classrooms is, where Professor Snape is. And so we theme that area around making potions. Potions in the game are and I don't like the word because it's a weird connotation these days in pinball, but a mystery award, which tends to be a table of just random crap that you kind of don't want, but you fall into it, you earn something anyways. For our mystery award, you are brewing a potion, but you actually get to choose which potion you would like to brew. So there's 3 mystery awards that show up, and based on which shot you shoot first is the potion you're choosing to brew. So if you shoot the left orbit, you're going to choose the award that was qualified for the left the left ramp. If you choose the center shot, you're going to choose the potion for the center shot, and if you choose the right orbit, you'll choose the right orbit. So it's a semi-random mystery such that we show you what the 3 awards are, and you're like, ooh, I really need an extra tilt warning, and I really don't care about extra bonus right now. So I'm going to try to shoot for the right orbit because I used both tilts. And it's a Jersey Jack game, so you only get 2 tilts per game, not 2 tilts per ball. So tilts are very valuable. So semi-random mystery award is how I would theme potions. What else do we got?
I was trying to find where is. Well, we'll move on to the next one, which is obviously just below that. We've got this area here.
We've got.
So you got the scoop. You've got this little return.
Right.
Just
we also have a shot under the flipper.
Yes.
Right? So right where that number 8 is, if you're holding up your flipper, there's a shot underneath there. And that's the extra ball shot, because I think extra balls should be earned and not just given away like candy. So you got to earn your extra ball. You got to shoot underneath that flipper. Now, the first extra ball that you qualify, we will give to you on any subway entrance.
Yep.
So it could be the potions, it could be the under the flipper, it could even be the scoop itself. But every extra ball after that you earn, you have to shoot that under the flipper shot. So the shot next to that is the scoop. The scoop starts a lot of things, but it primarily starts your movies. Oh, there we go.
Yep. Oh, you can see there. Yep. Just to that one. Yep.
Yeah, so that'll start your movies. Your terms at Hogwarts, your year at Hogwarts, where you play through the first 6 movies. It also, after you have made some combo shots, will advance your form of wizard travel. So combos equal wizard travel in this game. Every time you advance your form of wizard travel, you get a reward. And every other reward is the Geminio charm. And in Harry Potter, Geminio is a charm that causes duplication. So that is your playfield multiplier. And that is why there's a sign right there above the scoop that says Geminio, and it's got that, kind of pie symbol. When that's flashing, it means that if you shoot the scoop, you're going to start a playfield multiplier. And then the forms of wizard travel, it starts when you make a combo, you'll see the Hogwarts Express traveling across your screen. Once you've upgraded, you'll see a broomstick flying across your screen. And then if you've upgraded a third time, you'll see the flying car from the second film traveling across your screen. And then Floo powder and... what's after Floo powder? I'm trying to see on the playfield here. Oh, the night bus. Again, we follow through kind of the theme in the movie where every student starts riding the Hogwarts Express, then they can get on broomsticks, then they can travel, in the second film, Harry and Ron travel by a flying car, and then Floo powder and the night bus. And
so that's all these lights here.
That's all those little lights there, and you can keep upgrading, and you're earning more rewards, and you're earning more points for doing combos. And this playfield is very combo focused. It's very easy to make combos on this playfield, and so you keep advancing those from then up to Portkey and up to the Hippogriff, and finally up to Apparition, which is like teleporting in the Potter world. And then finally, the rightmost shot on the game is the Time Turner, and that's another one of those little S-curves that I put into the game. It's a spinner. It re-qualifies movies after you've completed one right there by the sorting hat, and it comes right back down the right return and feeds your lower right flipper.
Which I'll show that again now. Yeah, I'm a sucker for spinners, but that little return looks pretty fast too.
It's very fast. The speed coming down the right return after you've made that, you can, I have multiple times done a quick ski jump and then repeat that shot into there. And I think my best is 4 in a row where I feed that right spinner, ski jump back to my left flipper, feed that right spinner, ski jump back to my left, and it's a really fun thing to do.
So basically, go up, hit the spinner. This comes down here.
Yeah.
And then the Protego gets activated because
so no, Protego doesn't need to activate, right? If you're coming down the rightmost, it's a return lane.
Return, yeah.
And
so
then
that's a bit like on the other side, same thing. It just jumps the little opening.
Yep, and then, for that shot, you can quickly do a ski jump, meaning you hold up your right flipper, the ball hits it, you let it go, it pops over to the other side, and then left flipper again. And I think I've done 4 of those in a row. It's just such a satisfying little play of mechanics.
So we've touched on all those. Obviously, the Protego gets activated by the rollover switch where Voldemort is.
Correct. Yep.
Is there, on a separate note, the question I want to ask before I forget, was there the fact that Voldemort's not really on this playfield at all? He's not a main toy. He's very subtly there. Is that because, like, in the films, he's not really there? He's very rarely seen as well. It's
Right. So Voldemort shows up for the first time in his true form in the last, 15 minutes of movie 4. And then in movie 5, you only see him for 10 minutes. And movie 6, the protagonists don't see him at all. And then again, you don't really encounter, Harry doesn't encounter him until like the very final minutes of the final films. So, he's not this big bad guy that you're punching and beating up, because he is the ultimate bad guy who very rarely shows himself. So he's there in the drain lane, but of course every one of these iconic scenes where he's in the films is portrayed in the movie modes, and he's on the screen, and you're battling him by shooting the various shots related to that mode. But to put him in there like as a bash toy was almost doing him a disservice, because he's not just some soldier in the army, right? He is the head. The
ultimate wizard mode.
Yep.
So touching back on like at the back here, so this upkick that obviously feeds the top of the staircase and the wands, right? Multiple ways is to get to that.
Right. So there's a magnet in the right orbit. Okay. And so you shoot up there, magnet grabs it, stops the ball, lets it go, and it feeds the vertical up kicker. That feeds either to the wands or to the top of the staircase, because there's a magnet built in that path on the third level.
Yeah.
Diagon Alley can also, which is the shot right at the middle, can also be grabbed by that magnet and feed to the top of the staircase or the wands. And then also the inner loop from the upper right flipper can be grabbed by that magnet and feed to the to feed up there, and then drop it to the wands or to the top of the staircase. So there's 3 different shots that will feed that vertical up kicker. But only if we choose to, as the programmers, turn that magnet on and stop the ball. Otherwise, that ball is just whipping around, right?
Yeah.
So if you shoot into Diagon without that magnet active, it's going to come screaming down to your upper right flipper. You shoot the inner orbit without the diverter active or without the magnet active, and you can repeat that shot over and over and over again with your upper right flipper. So
and obviously one feeds to the top of the stairs, which that looked in the little teaser trailer we got. That looked awesome when this was facing that way, and it kind of just stepped down multiple times. And then this one goes to the wands to lock the ball. The cauldron, right? Obviously creating magic. Do you want to let people know why the cauldron, I guess, is important?
Yeah, so there's a very well-loved character. Well, there's a very well-known character, Professor Severus Snape, who is the potions master for the first 5 films. And he's an important character. And if you don't understand the importance of Snape, I implore you to watch the films or read the books. He is a favorite character for a lot of people for many reasons. So I really wanted to have Snape in this game, especially because he's played by the great and late Alan Rickman, who just captures him on screen in such a good way. But I did enjoy the concept of having the 3-ball lock drops the balls into a cauldron, and then they kind of disappear, right? But that's actually a pass-through that drops through the cauldron, through the playfield, into a subway, and then they kick out. But it's kind of like, where did the balls go? What kind of magic just happened? I don't see where they went. And then they kick out of the scoop and feed the players flippers directly.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, what a way to kind of incorporate not only a bit of magic and mystery, but the homage to Snape. And yes, you're right. I mean, Alan Rickman, I don't think anyone else can play that character. But I do like the touch. One thing I do like is games, and Ghostbusters has it, and a few others where you've got the little mirror that shows you what's happening. And I actually like the fact that the art on the playfield is upside down.
Yes.
So
you
can see it the right way.
It is a fun thing to do. I put this big moving mechanism, kind of mid playfield, and then I put my pop-ups behind it, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta be able to see it, and immediately I think of like Circus Voltaire, which I think has a mirror in the back
Yeah.
that shines down at an angle. I'm like, okay, I gotta put a mirror in there. Oh well, duh. The most iconic mirror in Harry Potter is the Mirror of Erised, which plays a primary role in the first film.
Yeah.
So we took that design and we put it in there, and you can see the ball reflected in the pop bumpers when you look into that mirror. And so you can still see where the ball is, even though you can't see it directly. You can see it reflected in the mirror. And so, yeah, we inverted all the artwork in that area and the words in that area so that you can see them and read them correctly through the mirror.
Yeah, look, I think the mirror is a great touch. Everyone that I've spoken to that's played it loves the tree and the way the tree moves with the rubber material. I think that was a great touch because I think the element of, and even though you haven't seen the film, you don't know that the tree has that movement. But
Yeah.
I think there's an element of, well, if the kind of the car stuck in the tree, the stiffness of it would look weird, even for someone that hasn't seen the films.
Yep.
So that was a great touch, and a lot of people have loved that bit. I'm just going to pull up the. Here I am trying to juggle all the windows. I'm a sucker for upper playfields. I love upper playfields, and I specifically love them when they're easy to get to.
Yes.
The Foo Fighters one kills me because I'm not a great player and I struggle to get up there. And
So
I feel
that big right ramp that feeds.
Yeah. But this, obviously, people are going to spend time up here, and it's a fun element. And obviously, we spoke about this last time. That's what you guys wanted to achieve. You wanted it to be fun. You wanted it to be its own thing. And there's a lot going up here. I did touch on the fact that we've got 2 posts that are essentially energy building posts that hit the 2 captive balls, which stay in their own little lane. And we can go into the scoop and back around, and that's obviously loopable. I'm sure there's going to be competitions of how many people can loop that the most.
I mean, it's honestly, so one of these things, again, as a game designer, Joe and I have talked about, because again, him and I can stay up there all day long. Like we can keep that shot going forever. It's like, at what point do we like turn it off? Well, turning it off isn't really fun. You're not going to feel good when it gets turned off, but I also can't just let a player live up there forever and keep racking up million. So it's like Joe has come up with a way of, we'll reward you for the first X number of times you make that loop, but after that, you're just showing off, and you're not going to get the same gains that you would if you make it like the first couple times. So it's one of those tournament players we know will try to exploit this. How do we make that non-exploitable, but still make it fun for the casual players? They're like, oh, I made it 2 in a row. Oh, I made it 3 in a row. And then, they drain out.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine people will be going, oh, how do I get up there again? And how many, I want to do it again. And they'll probably just put quarters in the game just to literally, what's the word? Play that as much as possible and repeat that shot. I'm just going to share this. I think you can see that. Yep. Let's open this one. Where is it? There it is. I've got so many windows open. Just to show that shot.
Yeah, the feed into the spinner lane from the main ramp is something that I really enjoy doing. Because that automatically feeds your flipper, and then you can either repeat that spinner lane or you can shoot the U-turn that feeds it. And again, both of those shots upon completion feed that upper left flipper again and again. And even like the rubber on the right-hand side, right? If you hit those posts, you have a chance of nudging the ball back because it's going to bounce off that rubber, and you can get another crack at it with your upper flipper.
I know you did touch on it, and sorry if we're repeating this, but there will be people that I find that sometimes people will skim through videos and may miss it anyway. So do you know that getting up there and how quick you do qualifies you for your position in the team? Quidditch is a sport. Think of it as hockey up in the sky or polo up in the sky. And you qualify levels, and depending on how good you do the first time determines where you end up. and that obviously determines your scoring, right? Like,
Correct.
the better you are in the team, there's like your quarterbacks. Do
Yep.
you want to just run through that again?
Yeah, so there's 4 Quidditch positions. There are 7 members of the Quidditch team, 4 positions. There are chasers. So beaters are the lowest member in our standings. Those are the guys or gals that have a bat and they whack a bludger at opposing players to try to knock them off their broom. Then there are the chasers. Those are the people who try to make shots on goal with the ball called the quaffle. There is the keeper, who's like the goaltender in soccer or hockey, the goalie. And then there is the seeker, the person whose job it is to grab the golden snitch as it flies around. The golden snitch ends the game, gives your team 150 points, whereas all shots on goal just score 10 points. So as you're playing a Quidditch match, or the first time you get up there, you're trying to earn your spot on the team. Whichever position you earn adds a big old multiplier to your Quidditch points at the end of the game. And again, I will reinforce the idea of do not tilt out on your last ball, because you will throw away every Quidditch point that you have worked for, because Quidditch only adds to your score on ball 3 in bonus. So it's one of those like game total bonuses that add up in your final ball.
So those beta lights on the playfield there,
Yes,
and beta is the entry level position.
Mhm.
Those are to represent the 2 posts that obviously you can hit, which then up the top, for those that probably can't picture it, it's a little bit like the Beast shot in X-Men, where you hit it and it hits the ball at the top, right? Something
Right.
similar to that.
Right. Yep.
That is like its own little mini thing as well, right?
Yes.
Now, is there, obviously you can see the words beta there. I'm assuming on the screen where there is a little section dedicated to the upper playfield Quidditch area,
Mhm.
there's a way of determining what position you're in. You can actually see what's lit up.
Yep, you can see what qualifiers you need to hit the first time you go up there. I think it's like shots and spins and targets, and a snitch. So my favorite shot in this game, or one of the really, really cool shots in this game, is to be able to shoot that main ramp, which you can see it in this film right here. If you pause it,
Yep.
you can see that the main ramp up the middle of the game, off to the right-hand side, if you shoot off the tip of this yellow flipper, you can shoot it right onto that main ramp, and it goes into the back of the staircase. And if you can make that shot the first time you get up there, you get awarded S tier class seeker, which is like the best seeker in the world. You are Victor Crumb for the Harry Potter nerds out here. Who's the best seeker ever. And that is just worth absolute monster points. It's in a very challenging shot, but it's so cool when it happens, because you're making combos, you're making the orbit, you're making the loop back, then you make that, which feeds into the back of the staircase, which, you know, could go anywhere. It could go down to your lower left flipper, and you can keep these combos just going and going and going. So we reward the player when they make that shot. And give
so is he like
this...
the Tom Brady of Quidditch?
well, basically, right. Like I said, he's the Victor Crumb of Quidditch if you can make that shot. So.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's really picked up the artwork that's in this ramp scoop area. Is that to represent those? I know when you watch Quidditch, there's a lot of the banners around the field. Is that where that artwork's from?
Yes. Yeah. So that is kind of like the where the fans sit, and actually, if you look down in that U-turn, there's actually a group of fans sitting in there, and those are a group of people right at the top of there, above the red and yellow flags. Yeah. That's a group of characters from the film that are sitting in the stands, and you're shooting up through there. It was fun artwork to put in
there. So look, I think we've touched on, I'm just going to pull up the other, just to make sure that we haven't missed anything, because it's always the case that you do a video and someone goes, oh, but you didn't touch on this and we didn't touch on that.
About that. So,
yeah. I will pull up that diagram again, and we will go over just to make sure that we've recapped everything. Let's do that one. Was there anything that we've missed that you think is an integral part. I think we've covered everything. We've spoken about, maybe one thing I don't recall if we touched on the other videos, but again, we'll touch on here, is, where's my little drawing diagram? In this area here, these lights there.
Right. So those are the 4 ally modes that you can earn. So again, if you're shooting ally shots, you get to earn allies after you hit the ally stand-up target. Lights up either one of those shots. 2 allies collected in the right orbit will qualify either Lupin, which is super right orbits, or it'll qualify Heart's Desire, which is super pop bumpers. Qualifying 2 allies in Dumbledore's army will qualify Luna Loves Loops, which is super inner loops, or it'll qualify Hexes and Jinxes, which is the super spinner mode. So that's what those 4 lights are. It'll show you which one is currently lit if you qualify your next ally, and which one you're going to collect.
There you go. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll remove that, and what we will do is, while we're talking, I got a couple questions in the chat from the last video that people like, maybe you guys didn't touch on, or can we get a little bit more information on? And let me just pull this back. So leave that playing for people that haven't seen that. All right. Now I'll pull those up. One person had a long question. He said, if you get the chance, can you ask Eric about the code and the concerns about the timed out modes that don't require you to hit shots to progress in the game? Is this designed to not give a sense of accomplishment for progression and only focusing on scoring higher? I don't personally really understand that question, but I kind of do. Do you understand what they're asking?
Sure. So yeah, there are movie modes in the game. If you choose to time them out, you can. But I will emphasize scoring potentials for completed modes are astronomical. Your scoring in final exam is based, so at the end of the movie mode you've played, it's based solely on how well you've done in the other modes. Scoring in timing out modes is not going to get you any points, and you're really lame if you do it. So don't, I guess, is what it comes down to, right? It's like you're not going to, even if you time out the entire movie's worth of points, it's like, you're not going to accomplish any points in anything after that, because all of your points are based on how well you've done in those movie modes. It's just kind of a waste of everyone's time. Don't be that guy or gal.
Don't be that guy. Okay, another question is where the moments are going to be in the game if we can't hear the audio from the clips during the lessons, as they aren't the priority in the game. Are the moments meant to be, I'm playing Quidditch, I'm fighting a Death Eater, rather than anything tied directly to the movies?
Right. So, again, we try to focus on the most impactful moments of the game. When you're playing Quidditch, we absolutely want you to hear the Quidditch stuff. When you're fighting Death Eaters, we want you to hear the Death Eater fight stuff. The movies will be happening in the background. And when you focus on those, when you're making those shots, you will be hearing the movie things. Anytime you complete a movie, you're rewarded with a movie completion scene that happens. So you make the 3 shots. Instead of seeing the loop, you're going to see the end of that scene, which is something of the characters talking or doing some sort of action, and you'll hear them and you'll see them and all of that. But the minute actions you can make happen.
On what you said before about, or the other day about, like, it is a pinball machine. Like, if you want to watch the films, you go watch the films, right?
Right.
Sorry, there was a slight delay. Were you finishing something? What you were saying?
Well, I was saying, like, you want to be rewarded with the thing or the objective you just completed as the highest priority of what you've done. And something happening in the background, like the movie scene, will happen. And if you make the shots for it to complete it, you'll be rewarded with those shots. But if it's happening in the background while you're starting a multi-ball, as the person playing the pinball machine, you're going to care more about the multi-ball than the scene happening in the background.
And I think, like, and this probably touches on this whole thing about muted clips and not muted clips. Like, it's a pinball machine and the balls move fast, right? Like,
right.
And having the idea of having every single thing you're doing being on the screen, even though you're going from one shot to one orbit to one lane, it's impossible, right? So you kind of have to prioritize certain things, and there'll be things that will be muted. And I really hate this word because it makes it sound negative. And I know there was a bit of backlash.
Attenuated is a better way of saying it, because the audio is still there and it's still playing. It's just not playing as loudly as the other things that are more important.
Because there's that thing where people go, no, they said that there's no muted clips. In a sense, for the important part of playing the game, there are no muted clips, right?
Correct.
But it's naive to think that there won't be clips that don't have the full audio, or you can hear all of it, because the game
there's more important stuff happening that you want to hear about, right? There's sound effects that you've made this shot or you've completed this objective, which are more important than a looping movie background clip that's currently happening. Now that's there if you're not doing anything else. But when I get a super jackpot, I want to hear super jackpot. I don't want to hear Snape bitching at Harry in the potions lab because he screwed up another potion. Like that. That doesn't mean anything to me as the player. But if I'm trapped up, I'm going to be able to hear that stuff and see that stuff happening on screen. Like this scene that you're playing right now, the dueling club scene. You can hear Harry and Draco talking trash to each other. But I also just qualified one of my objectives for the Battle of Hogwarts. You bet your ass I want to hear that I qualified part of Battle of Hogwarts, because that's a wizard mode and that's more important than a scene happening in the background of the game.
So basically, where on our last video there was some comments saying that people didn't agree with my little rant about this whole muted clip debate, and thought that muted clips means one thing, but I just think it's impossible to get everything in because the game moves so
like right there, for example, what the scene we just saw. We were seeing a looping scene, a looping scene, a looping scene, and you're hearing the audio of it happening. But Joe just completed that scene. You got a full screen movie effect with the synced audio. That is the most important thing that just happened in the game, and that's what you're seeing and hearing.
And it's about creating that experience, right? And immersing you in that moment.
Right. And actually the ball is held in that instance, so you can enjoy that and you can hear it and see it, and like that's done intentionally. We show you the cool stuff that we know you want to see and experience.
And look, I understand, because the game is made for for pinball players, but also for people that love Harry Potter. And I think the people that love pinball but don't understand Harry Potter are just going to find this like, who cares, or it's too much, or so finding that balance. But at the same time, I think you guys as a company build games that are very different. They're not predominantly sighted games, which will obviously change now with the arcade edition. But it's a company that builds games, creating experiences and moments, as opposed to what other companies do with creating games that also do that, but on a different level. Yours is again very cinematic, and I think anyone that's a real passionate, traditional, old school pinball player probably is playing the wrong game. They should play it and they have to experience it because it's a unique game. But I think there are elements that if they have an issue with it, they're probably playing the wrong game. They may never own it. They'll play it. They may not play it ever again because it doesn't, we can't please everybody, right? So
correct.
But this whole thing about the muted clips has just been that, and there's only been the only thing really, and probably the fact that, and I will be devil's advocate here because obviously I can't be seen shilling everything, but because that's not allowed in this world.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that there is so much going on, that with the flashing lights and all the noises, that it can come across a little bit
Chaotic.
chaotic, and a bit like what was the word I heard, like a slot machine, right? Like a machine at a casino, right?
Mm.
But I think there's an element of, like, we are trying to create something addictive too, right? In a good way,
Well,
right?
right. We want to create the constant serotonin drip of
Mm,
you're doing things. These are your rewards for those things.
mm,
If you're not the person at the game, you're going to experience chaos because you're
yeah,
not the person experiencing it. But
yeah,
when you hit a target and you hear a sound, or you hit a shot and you see a movie completed, and you know in the back of your head, well, that was the last shot I needed, which is why it just started the multi-ball qualified movie. It's like all of that stuff works when you're engaged with it. But when you're passively watching from across the room, it's going to seem like chaos.
mm,
But when you've got hands on the game, it makes sense. It is helping you understand your progress and
yeah.
your current setup for what you have coming next in the game. So.
Yeah, look, I think like with me, one of my favorite games is Avatar. I really enjoy Avatar and the way the light show. Like, I'm a sucker for light shows, and the only time that I have ever kind of critiqued lighting is, I guess, when you defeat the crab mech, we get this rainbow, right? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, well, that's like, I would have preferred maybe like white and blue light to represent electrical, like, shutdown, right? So
Sure.
that's the only thing that I think some people have given me feedback on, is a little bit too rainbow. In saying that, though, Harry Potter, especially in the first, I don't know, maybe I haven't watched the movies in a long time, but in the first 4 films, is a quite bright, colorful, before the film starts getting darker and darker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think you can get away with it, and I think people that don't really know the law will probably go, yeah, but I think they critique it because JJP are renowned for the very vibrant light shows since they've incorporated those light bars,
Right.
right?
Right.
But I'm sure, like anything, and you may not ever want to change it because you'd be like, no, screw you, I like it. But maybe.
Well, actually, those light bars are the first thing that I've ever received a personal patent on. So yeah,
Mm,
I do like them quite a
there
bit.
you go.
Uh,
And I think they're a great part. I think, is there an element there where, if over time there is that much feedback that it is too rainbow, that it can be
mhm,
changed quite easily?
mhm.
That's just coding, right?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it's programming. They can be 16
yeah,
million colors, and we choose to make them attractive to people
yeah,
who aren't so obsessed with the pinball machine for its sake of being a pinball machine, but more for its ability to entertain,
mm,
right? Like if you put yourself in the shoes of a casual player who's never played a pinball machine. Oh my God, look at all these lights, look at all these colors, look at all these sounds and this experience that I'm having. Versus, well, I really think this movie should be red and green because it's Christmas time here, versus having that purple in there. It's like, yeah, well, sure. Thank you for your opinion, but we're
yeah,
trying to expand this to a broader audience, and we want to pull people in who are walking past this game in the movie theater or in the arcade or in the bar, and like pretty flashing lights attract people.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
let's pull them in and help them experience our pinball
Especially
machine.
people that have never played pinball or don't realize that pinball is still a thing, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
I know obviously they've just built this whole well, not just built, it's been around, this Harry Potter world at the the studios, at the
Mm-hmm.
theme parks, right? I can
Mm-hmm.
imagine if you guys just plonked a couple of these machines around the Harry Potter theme park, that you'd capture with a you can buy this if you scan this QR code.
Right.
Like, there'd be a lot of people that would buy this on the
Oh yeah.
spot, right?
Oh yeah.
Um,
Believe me, I was at Universal last November, and I got the privilege of accompanying Mirafora and Eduardo of Team Mina Lima. I was there +1 to
oh,
the VIP pre-opening of
no,
Universal Epic Universe, which is the
yeah,
newest theme park that opened in May. So I got to spend the whole evening with those two, and it was such a cool experience. And the people that we talked to there, when they found out that I make pinball machines, they were like, "Oh my god, this is so cool! We got to get one here. We got to get one in the park and in a break room and stuff like that." So yeah, it was.
Cool. Look, we've been going for an hour and a half. I did want to touch on something quickly. Have you still got 5 minutes?
Sure.
I want to touch on the topper, right? And I'm going to pull up. I did have it pulled up, but I accidentally closed it. So you were involved in the Harry Potter topper for the CE. I'm assuming also for the Wizard. And see if I can pull this up. Give me a second.
Yeah, those were both my ideas. I didn't design, like I wasn't the mechanical engineer laying out the design. But yeah, so it looks like in this video someone's going through the test for the components of the topper. And we are on early code here. Generally, previous games, we've gotten a lot more time to flesh out code for CE toppers. But on this game, we're actually building CEs first. So yeah, I think there's 6 individually controllable RGB LEDs inside the castle walls. There's 2 fully controllable RGB LED strips in the front and back, 3 different white LED strips, 2 servos, 1 DC motor, and a spotlight that shines a dark mark on the ceiling.
Now, the dark mark is sitting on your hat?
Yeah. It's
for those that don't know.
Yeah.
Now, is that just literally the dark mark? Does it spin when it projects? Like, what is it? Does it flash? Is there
so we can control it. It shines on your ceiling. And again, that's a very symbolic thing in the Potter world. The dark mark would get put up into the sky after the Death Eaters have murdered someone. So that gets shined over Hogwarts at a very impactful moment in the series. It gets shined over the Quidditch pitch at the Quidditch World Cup at a very impactful moment. It is a very impactful symbol that strikes fear into the heart of the wizarding world. So we use it. We shine it above your game during Death Eater fights and during things when the dark arts are coming to the forefront, like when you're battling bad guys and things like that. So it's not an Elton John laser box by any means. It's there to add mood and atmosphere versus a flashy laser light show.
Now, there was an element of a few. Well, actually, there was a few comments where people were like, "Oh, the like I know why," and correct me if I'm wrong, where they're going, "Oh, the topper, the castle is the wrong color," right? And I'm going, "Well, it's because it's dark and nighttime, so the tone is different." Is that correct?
Right. So we did create the topper for nighttime Hogwarts, and again, I will be the first to say this: the light shows and the animations for that topper are nowhere near completion yet. But as you just saw in that video, right, the hardware is there. By the next time we talk, there's already version 0.72 is coming to our games tomorrow. I'm putting it on factory games, and then it's going to be available for everyone who has the game already to download and install, and there will be more light shows for that topper. It's just there's, Jersey Jack is not made up of 1,000 different programmers who are all, working 8-hour days. It's like there's 4 guys currently working on the game, and we want to bring you as much fun as quickly as possible. And light shows on a topper, we want to get them out there, but we also want to make scoring and rules and choreography in the game as well. And there's only so many hours in the day.
And I think this picture sums it up. Like, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's yes, during the day the castle's like a creamy color, whatever, but you wouldn't see that at night time. And I think there's an element of, we need to understand that there's a reason why the topper is dark. We're closing it in. I find toppers always is such a controversial topic, because people going, "Oh, you don't get your money's worth But when you do get your money's worth, it's still not good enough. And it's kind of like
that sounds very familiar. Yep.
So, look, I think you've done a great job to try, and obviously trying to scale that and get everything in. And you could have gone taller, and you could have gone like show some rocks. And it's again that happy medium, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you've got to play within the sandbox, and generally I set that sandbox to 8 feet. Right, I don't want to go taller than that because even in my house right now, I can't put most toppers on my games because I have like a 7.5 foot ceiling. I live in an old house in Chicago, and like deep basements were not a thing back in the 1950s when my house was built. So I try to set it to, well, here's a standard size. We go 10 inches above the back box. I'm not going to go taller than that. Sure, you might have 10-foot ceilings in your house, but not everyone does. So I want to make it as usable as possible to the biggest fan base. So what can I do with this space and this budget and this timeline and this, all of that kind of goes.
Obviously, I haven't seen it, and Chris will see it today. Is the topper height and size this similar to the Avatar? Because Avatar is more prominent because it's a box, right?
Correct.
That's very similar in size, right?
It is the same XYZ dimensions, right? The maximum height of Avatar and width and depth are the same as the maximum height, width, and depth of this topper.
Cool. All right. Well, there you go. And look, again, huge congratulations. Like I said, I've had heaps of positive feedback. A lot of my pinball creative friends have ordered them and have touched on it on social media. Retro Ralph, Kerry Hardy, Don's Pinball Podcast, all guys that, are pretty critical, and they've been doing this for a long time, a lot longer than me, and they have fallen in love with the game and aren't even really into Harry Potter. So that says a lot.
Right on.
So big kudos to you and the team. I'm excited to eventually play this one day, and waiting to see Chris's video in the next coming days about his reaction, because Jack was adamant. He goes, I want to see your face playing the game, because I think the experience it creates probably will, massive smile on his face at the same time. Was there anything you wanted to touch on before we go?
No, I think we covered, the general layout of the game, rules, concepts, shots, how all that works. And I mean, reach out if there are any more questions that come up. Happy to jump on and clarify things. And
cool. All right. Well, look, thank you very much. And I know it's late for you now, and we've gone way over, but it's
all good, man.
When you go over, you don't realize that it's been a good discussion. So I could talk for hours, but all good. Thank you very much, guys. Remember, please like, subscribe. Gonzo's channel, obviously we got Pinball Heaven, which is distributor. I do want to give a shout out to the Australian distributor, which is Pinball Sales Australia, which is Paul. So if you do want to get a game, Harry Potter, you can reach out with Paul. Paul's a little bit hard to get hold of because he does multiple other things. If you want to get a game, you can also just contact me at my Pinball Underground or Gonzo's, and I can put you on to Paul. I deal with Paul on a regular basis. So Pinball Sales Australia for Australia, Pinball Heaven in the UK, and in America there is an abundance of people that sell games, big population. So looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Eric, for your time. Love talking to you, mate. It's been cool to get to know you as well over the last 6-7 months. We've been talking on Facebook.
Same.
Talking beers and beef and ham and all that stuff. But look, quick question: griddle or flat when you're barbecuing?
I tend to do it on the open grill, not on a flat. Not yet. I've been looking at a couple different ways of cooking.
I've transitioned my barbecuing. I like flat grilling, like teppanyaki is a bit of a game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man.
So there you
check
go.
it out.
Maybe I can give you some words of wisdom. There you go.
Nice.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. On the next one.